All right, so here we go. Lupus and You, Getting Real About Lupus. Today we are honoring some amazing warriors, and we're bringing education right from the horse's mouth from our amazing lupus warriors to share what it's really like to live with lupus. Today we do not have a medical professional. We have actual lupus warriors, people who are living with lupus and can give you what it's like to be diagnosed with this disease, what it's like on a daily basis, just the everyday experience. So we have people who are lupus warriors. Here's our agenda for today. I'm going to open up with some great resources from our organization and remind all of you what our mission is and how you can get involved with us. And then I'm going to turn it over to Tony Grimes, our moderator. And she's going to have a discussion with our amazing warriors today. Here's who we have. We have Karen Ng, who is the founder of Lantern, the Lupus Asian Network. She's a national ambassador and also our national support group facilitator for our Asian community. We have Kevin Vaughn, who is an LFA support group facilitator. He is the host of our National Lupus Man Cave. So fellas, if you want to have this discussion and meet other guys and have a place just for you, we have one. You can join Kevin in the Lupus Man Cave. We have Sarita Pollinaire, who is an LFA national ambassador. She's also a health educator and a support group facilitator in our lovely San Diego community. And we have Yolanda, who we affectionately call Yoli Lugo, who is an LFA advocacy committee member. After the introductions, we're going to do our panel discussion, Getting Real About Lupus, with Karen Ng, Kevin Vaughn, Sarita Pollinaire, and Yoli Lugo. And then we'll open it up for a Q&A session with all of the panels, and then Tony is going to close us out. So that's our agenda for today. Just a few housekeeping items. I'm sure all of you are very savvy with the world of Zoom, but I just want to remind you to submit your questions in the Q&A area. That's where we'll pull them from. We have our amazing team of health education specialists online tonight, also answering questions and sharing links. So feel free to ask what you must. Don't be shy to interact. Use our chat features and functions, the polls, to get to know each other and connect with people. And then this will be recorded. We will not share the slides, but this video will be available for you to watch later on our website at lupus.org/lupus-and-you. So we have a whole page dedicated to these events, and you can go back and not only rewatch this one, but others. So just to remind you of our vision, we really do focus on a life that's free from lupus. We know this is a tough disease, and we do hold true to this. We've been working in this community for over 40 years. And so we're dedicated to improving the quality of life for all people who have been affected by lupus through our programs of research, through education, through support and advocacy. So we have several different ways that we really work to improve the lives of those that have a lupus diagnosis. We have 3 key pillars, as I mentioned before. We do work on research, and we're really excited about some of the work that we have going on right now. You can definitely learn more and get involved in that area. Caring support, I am the director of the Caring Support Services, and our area is to focus on supporting the patients every single day through our programs of support groups, through our health education specialists, and we do work with you one-on-one. So we hope after this program, you'll connect with us. And then advocacy, we have some great news about our upcoming national event this year. We're on the Hill every year, and we have a whole department dedicated to advocating for more funding for research and policies that can improve lives of those living with lupus. Strategic outcomes, we do have the patient, which is you, at the center of our work. We have several key areas that we focus on to try to improve just the quality of life and daily experience of those who are impacted by lupus. We're really working to expand our direct services and increase access to treatments and care. This is one way that we try to make ourselves more accessible to the community by providing education, even through our virtual platforms. We definitely want to reduce the time to diagnosis. For those of you that may not know, it takes an average of 6 years to be accurately diagnosed with lupus, and many times people that are struggling prior to diagnosis will see many specialists before they have the correct answer. We also work to ensure that people with lupus have an arsenal of safe and effective treatments. We're aware that it's tough to find what works, that it's a limitation on what's out there to help manage lupus, but we're so excited with many of the breakthroughs that are happening now to improve this. And then, of course, funding. We can't do what we're doing without funding. And so we're working to expand and achieve our mission by raising funds to carry out all of this and make programs like this free for you. RAY stands for Patient Powered Research, Lupus Research Accelerated by You. For those of you that would love to be involved in changing the face and the work of our science community and helping them understand what it's like to live with lupus, you can definitely get involved with this. You can find it on our website at lupus.org Ray. It's a great way for you to share your daily experiences, for our researchers to explore and learn more as they dedicate their time and their knowledge to improving the impact of lupus upon the human body, the mentality, and all of that good stuff. So please check it out and consider being involved. So here's a few of our programs and services I would love to highlight tonight. Support. You can't do this without support. I really encourage you. I oversee our National Support Group Network. You can find a support near you or virtually. Many of our groups are virtual since the pandemic, and you don't have to wait every single month. You can go to a support group almost every single day. You can find our listing of national and support groups across the nation in various states at lupus.org/local support. And I highly encourage you to get involved and check it out. Health Education Specialist is a wonderful program for you. This is where you can get one-to-one care and attention. We have a great team of 4 amazing individuals. 2 of them are fluent in Spanish and can talk to you in another language if you need that. But it is a form of non-medical counseling. They can meet you wherever you are, any area of the journey. We also support the families, the caregivers, and loved ones who need questions answered in lupus. You can find them at lupus.org/health educator or call the number listed here using the extension 136. And we want you to be involved with us. Your voice and your thoughts and your opinions are very, very important. One way you can do that is joining us this coming May on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. We'll be there hosting our National Lupus Advocacy Summit, May 19th through 21st. And we have great information for you. You can find all of the details on our website at lupus.org Summit. And it's because of you sharing your stories and your commitment to our congressional leaders. We now have a caucus on the floor. We're funded at 4 agencies. And we're making change. So join us in May. You can go to lupus.org/summit to get all the details and learn more. Now let's introduce our speakers. Tony Grimes, I'm very honored to call friend. She is our LFA constituent liaison. She's a national ambassador with us. She leads our support group program in Arizona, but she's also an amazing veteran. Tony was very fortunate to come to us and share her expertise after she experienced complications of lupus as a soldier. I mean, I look at her first of all, and I can't believe it, but Tony is a U.S. Army retired major, and she's an Afghanistan war veteran. She served from 1991 through 2011, both as an enlisted soldier and as commissioned officer. After being medically retired in February 2011, due to lupus, unfortunately, her body just couldn't, continue the rigor, and it started to fight against itself, and her PTSD continued being a problem. But fortunately, we have her as a wonderful voice in our community. She serves as a community health mentor for medical student training programs at 3 different areas in Arizona. She's a member of the class of 2018 Arizona Veteran Hall of Fame. Her true purpose and passion is spreading lupus awareness where she is, Lupus Foundation of America Constituent Engagement Liaison, and I have the pleasure of working with her on that. She's also a spokesman and recently named our 2023 Sandra C. Raymond Advocate of the Year. So we have an amazing person leading us tonight. She resides in Phoenix. So if you're from Arizona and don't know her, please, please, please reach out to her and be involved. And she lives with her amazing boyfriend and her emotional support animal, Duke. So Tony, please come on, and we're very excited to have you. I'm going to stop sharing so we can see everybody's faces.
Well, Wendy, thank you so much for that kind introduction. I'm so excited to moderate today's discussion. We will focus on real life experiences and those who are living with lupus. Our dynamic panel will reveal and highlight personal challenges due to the impact of lupus and advice for navigating this cruel and mysterious disease. So at this time, I want to turn it over to our first panelist to introduce themselves, Sharita. I think you're muted, Sharita.
I apologize. Can everyone hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, and loud and clear?
Yes.
Fantastic. Hi, my name is Sarita Palanair. I have been living with lupus for approximately 8 to 9 years now. I was diagnosed in the hospital, and I have the pleasure of working with LFA now for about 6 to 7 years. And I'm very glad to be here on this panel. Thank you so much for inviting me and having me.
Thank you for being here. Next, I'd like to go to Karen. If you could unmute and introduce yourself, please.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm really honored and grateful to be invited today as well. I've been living with lupus for about 25 years now, and I've done a lot of work in the lupus community, including being a LFA support group facilitator since Wendy started the programs in Southern California in 2018 or so. And I'm very passionate about support, education, and advocacy around health issues that affect our community, lupus being one of them, and suicide prevention being the other issues that need to really be highlighted. So thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Okay, this time I'd like to go to Kevin. If you unmute and introduce yourself, please.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Kevin Vaughn. I was diagnosed with lupus. It's been 10 years now, just about. I had the fortune of coming across Wendy's support group some years ago, and joined that and found it incredibly helpful to be able to engage with other people that are dealing with this. Found that there was kind of a lack of other guys in the groups, and so with Wendy's direction and leading, I ultimately got involved with the Man Cave, which is now a support group that supports guys that are dealing with this, to kind of speak to some of the issues that we face on our end of the spectrum. And it's been great, and it's been a wonderful opportunity to connect with like-minded people.
Kevin, thank you so much, and thank you for all the work you're doing with the men with living with lupus. Because as we know, with the lupus, we all have different journeys, and a man's journey is so different. So I'm glad you're there to support those. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then lastly, we have Yoli. If you can unmute and introduce yourself, please.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I am Yoli Apolategi Lugo, and I'm from San Diego. I was diagnosed with systemic lupus erythematosus in 2020 and with lupus nephritis in 2021. I am relatively new to the lupus community, but I have been fortunate enough to join the LFA Advocacy Committee. And last year, we were fortunate enough to be able to lead an effort to proclaim May as Lupus Awareness Month and turn one of our most important buildings here in San Diego purple. So I am excited to become more involved and to be here tonight. Thank you.
Yoli, thank you so much, and thank you for your advocacy work in California. Well, what I want to take some time to do tonight is talk to my wonderful panelists about the journey, because it's a journey for all of us. And I know for myself, I was very unique when I got diagnosed because, like Wendy said, I was an active duty Army officer when I was getting ready to deploy to Iraq, and I had chest pain. And so I ended up going to the doctor. I had fluid around my lung. And the doctor sent me to a pulmonologist. They did a thoracentesis where they took a long needle and drew fluid from my lung, and they said, come back in a month. Well, when I came back, he rushed me right to the rheumatologist because the fluid tested positive for ANA. And so that started my lupus journey. And I know that's not the journey for everyone else. I know it takes many years. So I want to take the opportunity to find out how long has it taken for you to get diagnosed? So Kevin, can you tell us about your journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So mine was kind of an interesting case as well. I had the symptoms for probably 3 or 4 years, ignoring them, not, you know, giving them really the attention they deserved. And fortunately or unfortunately, it got to a point where I was in so much pain, I could barely walk. And I went to my primary care physician, who sent me out for tests and things like that. And luckily, he came back with, hey, I think you may have lupus. Let's get you connected, with a rheumatologist and so forth. So I was fortunate in terms of how quickly he caught it and determined that that's probably what it was. But a slacker on my end for not going in sooner.
I know at times we can all be hard-headed because I know in the military, you just suck it up and drive on. So I'm glad that you were not hard-headed for too long. So,
Yeah.
All right. And then for Yoli, how long did it take you to get diagnosed?
It was actually, my symptoms were coming quick, and they came at the same time that we were being sent home during the pandemic. And so I think that perhaps the level of stress that we were under and a number of different things going on in my personal life was part of the catalyst for bringing all the symptoms at the same time. But I, like Kevin, was lucky enough to, have everything that I needed. At least I had a really, really thorough record of all my symptoms that I had not realized were, sort of coming in and out throughout the years. And once I had all of that, picture presented to my primary care doctor, they were quick to act and do the appropriate testing. And within a matter, I think, of weeks, I was diagnosed with lupus. And I think what was really sort of the key to all of this was the fact that when I had all those little symptoms here and there, I would go to my doctor. And so there was a record of all of that. I think that was really like the difference between getting diagnosed quickly and sort of, dragging it on and having to go through more testing than necessary.
Yoli, thank you. I know I always tell people that our doctors are the puzzle workers, and that as patients, we have to bring those pieces to the doctor. No matter how small or big those symptoms are, to us, it might not mean anything, but to them, they could piece it together and determine, oh, this lab number was low because of this that you reported over here. And we would have thought that swollen lip was nothing, but to that provider, it's something. So thank you very much. Sarita, how about you? Did it take you a long time to get diagnosed?
No, it was pretty quick because I almost died. So it literally took them a week. I think, let me see. My aunt was in the hospital being diagnosed with cancer, and then she passed away, unfortunately. But I was really sick and I was hiding it from my family because I had to take care of everything with her, and I had to close her estate. And then after that week, I drove up to my parents to Jersey, and I just collapsed on the back deck, and I went to the hospital and they ran my tests, and next thing I knew I was on like the third or fourth floor, which is like the cancer floor, and they were just doing tests like day and night, and I wasn't really sleeping because they were just taking blood like every 3 hours, and they thought I had lymphoma. And it literally took them like 3 days to figure out like I didn't have lymphoma, and I had fluid in my chest and fluid in my abdomen and fluid everywhere. And then when they figured out that I didn't have lymphoma, then they started trying to roll out like, different types of autoimmune diseases. And then come like the fifth day, then they realized that like it was lupus. So, but it almost took me out. So it was a week. It was a week, but
Well,
yeah, figured out
well,
pretty quick.
well, I'm sorry about your aunt, and I'm glad that you got diagnosed quickly, even though you had to go through so much to get there. The one thing I've realized is that so far between what Kevin said and Yoli, stress. Stress is definitely a catalyst because when I had my worst flare, I was getting ready to deploy. I was working on a second master's full time, got a new job, getting divorced, and it was all these stressors, and it landed me in the hospital for 6 months. So, yeah, stress, we got to keep it out of our lives. So, thank you, Sharita. And then we go to Karen. She is the veteran of the group here. So, you said 25 years of diagnosis. So, how long did it take you to get diagnosed?
Well, I thought I was putting the pieces of the puzzle together because I thought, my fatigue, my cold intolerance, I have a hypothyroidism. So I thought, oh, must be a thyroid issue. I'll make an appointment with my endocrinologist. The appointment was 3 months down the line. So I waited and waited, and like Kevin, I ignored my symptoms. I brushed it off because fatigue and swollen joints, that's not going to kill me. So, I can keep going, right? So the delay in my diagnosis wasn't because the doctors couldn't figure it out. It was because it was my ignorance and my procrastination. So by the time, out like Sarita, I also collapsed in the emergency room. And after the doctors gave me a blood transfusion and ran all these tests and did a kidney biopsy, they pretty much diagnosed SLE fairly quickly. So they knew it was, type 4 lupus nephritis, and then proceeded to start my treatment. So.
Okay. So I see a lot of folks not doing what they're supposed to be doing, going to the doctors and just passing it off. But that's the one thing I would say for the group that's here, that's listening in today, is that it's really important that we have to tell our doctors what's going on, because those little pieces can end up being more organ damage. I know for me, I had a lot of lower left flank pain when I was deployed, and I passed out in front of my soldiers multiple times. And when I got medevac back to the States, I told my rheumatologist, and we did 3 urinalysis, in 3 months. And that third month, he took me to the nephrologist, and he's like, I don't know how you're standing because you're spilling so much protein, you should be dead. So we all have to be our own best advocate. And even those little things, we got to take them to our doctors, let them put the puzzle pieces together. Now, talking about doctors and, communicating with them, we have to have a great relationship. That doctor-patient relationship is an intimate relationship. And if you don't trust your provider, then you might not get the best care possible. And I think communicating with them is critical. So I want to ask, Kevin, have you had any problems or challenges communicating with your doctors? And if so, can you give an example of a challenge and how you overcame it?
Yes, I definitely had a challenge. So when I was diagnosed and directed to a rheumatologist, I went to her, and I don't know, her way was just kind of nonchalant and not really appreciating the severity of some of the symptoms I was dealing with. Like there were times where I'd wake up and just couldn't walk, you know. And I think she started me off with goodness, thanks, lupus brain fog. She started me off with a steroid, um, which the name is escaping me right this moment, but she started me off with that, and I would come back to her with concerns about whether it was working or, how effective it was or wasn't being. And just again, very sort of nonchalant, oh, it'll be fine, that kind of thing. And it wasn't until I got hospitalized, and she visited me in the hospital, that kind of took a more serious approach to what I was dealing with. So I say all that to say, I think it's important that you, as was stated earlier, you really advocate for yourself, really push, because even though they're the healthcare professional, we don't necessarily know everything there is to know, and we're looking to them for guidance. We're looking to them to tell us what to do. We're still ultimately responsible for our well-being and our health. And so it's very important that we take a firm and direct and consistent position on the things that are concerns to us, and make sure that that translates into a concern for the people that represent our health. So that was kind of my biggest takeaway in terms of communication, is really learning to be more of an advocate for what I'm dealing with, and making sure that it's addressed fully.
And Kevin, I have a question for you. Do you think that your doctor was very nonchalant with you because lupus is not typically a man's diagnosis? Do you think,
You
looking
know,
back now that you're 10 years into the game?
it's possible. It's possible. I can't say for sure. It is possible. I think that, at least for her, because I can't speak for everybody and every rheumatologist, I think for her, it may have been more about her than about me, and being a male dealing with lupus. She's a rheumatologist. She sees this every single day. Granted, it's primarily women that are dealing with it, but I don't know. I think it might have just been her. But whatever the case, in my interactions with other people that have been dealing with this, like in the support group and so forth, the key takeaway has been, really, for everybody, we have to just drive our issues to the fore. Like, it has to be made important for the people that are supposed to be taking care of us, and that's up to us to get that going.
Yeah, I think the one thing that you did say is consistency. And I know when we're going through our flares, we don't want to fight. And we have to continue to fight, or have somebody there to help us fight. Because a lot of times, our providers, they're seeing many, many patients in a day. And if we don't be that squeaky wheel, we might not get the treatment that we need or the care that we deserve. So thank you for saying that, Kelly. Now, Sarita, did you have any issues communicating with your providers?
Thankfully I have not when it comes to lupus. Other things, yes, but lupus, thankfully I have not had any issues. If anything, sometimes I've wondered if maybe they took it a little like too seriously, because like some of the things I was like, okay, I'm not ready to do like that. So sometimes I'd be like, okay, like let's slow down and let's try this first and then let's go to this. But I think I'm just very apprehensive about, just, certain treatments, because I get very nervous about, just doing certain things. And I just want to be like absolutely sure that certain things are like necessary. But that's just my own anxiety. And all of my providers have been very good about reassuring me and kind of quelling that anxiety. But yeah, my providers have been really great, and I've always been very thankful for that. I used to be on the East Coast. I saw some of my East Coast people on here. Shout out to Lene. So, but yeah, um, I've been really fortunate to have really great providers. Kaiser was great, Cooper was great, MD Anderson was great. I know that that's not always the case for a lot of people with lupus, but I, try to tell people that if you're not having great providers, to please make sure that you're trying to seek out, other providers who will listen to you. So.
Yeah, that is a definite. Because like I was talking about earlier, it's that intimate relationship, and you got to be able to explain to one another what's going on and explain the treatments and have that open communication. Because I know with my rheumatologist, I've been with her, oh my goodness, for 12, 13 years now. And we're both graying at the same time. So I'm kind of concerned who I want to see when she retires. But it's a relationship. And when it's time to change medications, we talk about it. She explains to me what it is, the pros and cons. And then she says, you and Michael go off and you guys discuss it. And then we'll come back together and decide which way is the best step for all three of us. So, I always say, if you feel that you're not getting the care, go look someplace else. I've fired a doctor or two in my lupus training, but you have to look at your journey and where you want to be in the long run. So thank you, Sharia. Now, when it comes to, getting the care, that's one thing, but, and having those doctors, but when it goes to the treatments, there's so many treatments out there. And I know when I first got diagnosed, I did the worst thing. I Googled lupus and it said that I was going to die, and that don't take the meds, don't do this, don't do that. And it scared me because I didn't know anybody with lupus and I was the lucky one in my family with it, so treatment is always one of those things that's so different. But I want to know, Yoli, how do you manage your treatment side effects if you have any?
Yeah, so I was very sensitive to some of the medications in the beginning, and for me, it really never was about not wanting to take them. I think that's something that is very important for all patients, is to listen to your doctor and trust that they are, prescribing what, based on what you were explaining, your symptoms are the best medication to help your illness. So for me, I always was willing and taking my medications, but I think what has worked for me in managing the side effects has been be willing to change my diet, to change my habits, to I have a food and a symptom log. And so that has been made me able to recognize what, things I need to modify. For example, I take a certain medication that if I take it, late in the day without food, and then I get in the car, and then it's a sunny day, I become really sensitive to the sunlight, and it just, makes me really nauseous and gives me motion sickness. So I found like the perfect sort of habits that help me prevent me from getting all those side effects. The foods you eat, I think, as well as taking your medications are important. Some of the doctors don't really put any focus on that, but for me, I found that has a great effect on me. Eating something that might give me inflammation might be the difference between having a wonderful day and spending a day in bed. And so I think that you have to find sort of those things that work, because the treatment is your medication, but equally important is putting yourself in different ways to avoid having those triggers, right? So I think for me, it's been keeping those logs and being willing and flexible to change my habits.
I think that is so key, because I know when I first got diagnosed, I was definitely in the denial state for the first year and a half until I got nephritis and was in stage 3 and stage 4 kidney disease. And it wasn't until then that I started taking it seriously. But knowing that now my kidneys are much healthier, as my rheumatologist says, for a 51-year-old, you're doing pretty good, with your GFR and all that. And so now the key is, like you said, making sure I can maintain and changing certain things. I used to love ciabatta bread. Ciabatta bread doesn't love me. Once I eat it, it's like inflammation everywhere and I just ache for days. So, that's critical for everybody to know what their triggers are and how to work around them. Because for a person who is healthy individual, they can have the ciabatta bread, they can have the wine, they can eat all the pasta they want and have no issues. But for somebody who's a lupus warrior, that could really affect us, and we could eventually end up in the hospital, because it starts that baby flare going, and then it just gets worse and worse. So, thank you so much for sharing. And Karen, what about you? How have you been able to manage your treatments and side effects?
Well, 25 years ago, I was treated very aggressively with high dose IV steroids and Cytoxin infusions because I had type 4 lupus nephritis. So at that time, having chemo at such a young age, I was 24 at the time, doctors had a concern about my fertility. So they ordered Depo-Lupron injections to protect my ovaries. So that was one way, tried to manage the side effects. And then in terms of other side effects, like the hair loss and the body morphing, the swelling due to steroids, I can't avoid, those effects. I started wearing some hair accessories to kind of hide the thinning hair. And eventually I just cut it to a buzz cut. Also to manage the treatment side effects, actually, this is my parents believed that I needed to counteract the harmful effects of the Western chemotherapy with an Eastern approach, kind of to build up my body with the help of Chinese doctors. So they found an expert in moxibustion, which is a cupping method where it's meant to detox the body and promote circulation of your body's qi. And so you lie on your front and the doctor puts these suction cups on your back and manipulates them in such a way that's supposed to, help you. And the weaker your body is and the more deficient it is, the greater the likelihood the process would cause bruising. I went every single week, maybe once or twice a week. So then I'm bald, I'm bloated, and I'm black and blue all over. So my treatment was pretty severe in my first, year of getting treated.
Well, Karen, like you, I also was doing Cytoxin and pulse steroids too. And I'm glad to hear that somebody looked at your reproductive health, because for me, when I started with self-setup and the Cytoxin, it was really never a discussion. So I'm glad that, that they were looking at protecting you in that way. Also, I was going to ask you in regards to any cultural type of treatments, but I do also, I do acupuncture and I also do cupping. And I think, because with my kidneys, I can't take any pain meds. So between those two and massage has been a world of difference when it comes to my treatment and trying to manage. So, like we all know, with lupus, you need some type of support. Because this game, it's hard. It is hard. You have your good days and your bad days, and when you have the good ones, you want to go out and scream at the top of your lungs and do everything you can for that day, because you don't know when your next, good day is coming. But then a lot of times we run into that wall, and many times there's people who don't have the support in their life, or they don't want their support. I know that I was a very independent person, and March will be 17 years for me, and I'm getting better at saying yes to help. And also being a type A personality, I'm that one who wants to do it all on my own, but lupus is making me look at it differently. But Yoli, after your diagnosis, what was the most challenging, most difficult change that you had to do?
Tony, I think that I'm almost going to repeat what you said verbatim. I am a very, very type A OCD independent person. And I think that the hardest part of it was, relying on others to help me. And, some things that I might not be able to do at any certain point if I have a really bad flare. So essentially, I think it was, you know, sort of saying goodbye to that person you used to be and embracing the new you, right? I think that was the hardest for me. And so I think that with the help of the lupus community and family and others, I mean, it's possible, but when you're there in that moment, I think that was for me the hardest.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Kevin, I'm going to ask you, because typically we look at a man as the provider, the one who's taking care of everything, the strong one. Were you able to get the support that you need during your journey?
Good question. Yes and no. So in the beginning, like you both have stated, type A, driver, I'm just going to figure out a way to do it, come hell or high water, right? Um, and so I think my aversion to being helped was my biggest struggle initially. But then once I got to a place of being like, you know what, I kind of do need some help. I'm not hacking this on my own. I'd set the stage for being that guy all the time. And so voluntary help from the outside wasn't coming. Like I had to go and reach out, and I have to ask, and so on and so forth. So it did eventually come. So I had to retrain myself and retrain the people that love me in an effort to get them to step in and see how they could assist, and me be open enough to ask for that assistance as well.
Yeah, I think that's key, because when you're used to being independent, it's hard to take that help. And I remember I just had my hip replaced in June thanks to those pulse steroids back in the day. And I got avascular necrosis. And both my partner and my mom were here to help me. And when I had my knee replacement, I was able to do some stuff on my own. But with my hip, I was really humbled because I needed my mom to help me in the shower. I'm 51 years old and I got to have my mommy help me in the shower, but it made me appreciate that she was there for me, but it humbled me that I can't do it myself, because if I tried to step over that lip, and granted, it was only this big of a lip to step over, I could have fell and I would have been right back in the hospital. So being able to take that support is critical. Now, Karen, what about you? Did you have trouble getting the support that you needed?
Yes, I did. Like many of us, we didn't know anything about lupus, or we didn't know anyone with lupus at the time we're diagnosed. I had 5 really close childhood friends that would send me scientific articles, about treatments, medications, but it really didn't substitute for the kind of the lived experience that I was looking for. And when I attempted to go to a support group, that experience was pretty discouraging, because I didn't see anyone in the same age range or ethnic background, so I didn't feel like I could connect. I felt like an outsider. So that's actually how Lantern Lupus Asian Network program that I founded at the Hospital for Special Surgery, that's how it got started, because I wanted to have a program to help people like me who are looking for support and education. So I didn't have the support I needed, but now there are programs and support groups to address this very deficit. So, oh, I think you're muted.
Thank you, Karen. I'm going to do a shameless plug for the support groups. Like Wendy said earlier, support groups, we have them operating throughout the year, throughout the weeks. You can log on anywhere to anybody's support group. And, like Karen said, we all need support, and sometimes we don't want to take it, but you also need a place that's sacred, that you're able to share, because a lot of times, our family members and friends, they don't get it, and it's not their fault. But I think, by having that outside support, it helps. One thing I recommend to a lot of my members who say my husband doesn't get it, or my mom doesn't get it. She thinks I'm faking. I've had it for 20 years. I said, bring them to a support group meeting, bring them to a Lupus and You event, so that they can hear other people and their journeys, so they can realize this is a real thing. Because a lot of times people they look at you and they think, oh, but you look great. You don't look sick. And I know everyone on this camera has probably had that said to us. You look good. You look healthy. And it's like, yeah, but last week I was in the hospital fighting for my life. I had a chest tube in because my lung collapsed. But yeah, I'm here. So that's one thing, definitely, trying to get the support. And, with getting support, I always have to say that, lupus is such a journey, not only physically, but also mentally. Because we go through so much, because we started off with the life we had, and then all of a sudden this new diagnosis pops up and it changes our world. I know for me, my plan was stay in the military beyond 20 years. And lupus took that away from me at 19 years, 2 months, and 29 days. But luckily, I got diagnosed in service that I was able to get healthcare for the rest of my life. So there was a blessing in disguise. I have a pension, so I don't have to worry about that. I know getting care is hard for many lupus patients. So it's hard to cope with this. I always say you got to have a mental health provider in your care team, in your arsenal, because you need somebody there to help you when things wax and wanes. And so, talking about coping, Yoli, did you find that you were unable to work with your lupus diagnosis, and did you have to apply for disability at all, or?
Actually, not at all, because when I got diagnosed, we were all sent home. So I was working from home for the greater part of the worst of my illness. So that was, I think, for me, a blessing, because at the same time, like you mentioned, a lot of the, emotional changes that you're going through, and accepting that you have this new world and this new illness. And, I felt really like people were walking with me through this process, because everybody was wearing masks, everybody was working from home. I didn't feel, I think it would have been very shocking for me to be out there in the shape that I was in, and really feeling very not able to do everything I used to do. So I think that no, I was lucky enough to be able to work through my illness and not file for disability. And actually, I think that my continuing to work was sort of like the shining light at the end of the tunnel. That's what kept me going. I think that, not allowing yourself to go down that path of letting yourself, taking the things that take joy from your life, right? Continuing to do what brings you joy. So yeah, I was fortunate to continue to work.
Okay. And then, like you said, luckily you got to work through this through COVID. Have you been able to get accommodations, or do you need any accommodations?
I've been able to get accommodations. Luckily, my employer is very much connected to the work-life balance and what I need as a patient. So I have, but these are tough conversations that you have to have with your employer. And sometimes we don't want to have them, right? But I think they're much needed, and you'll be surprised at how probably most of the people out there are willing to support you in different ways if you have those conversations.
Yeah, I think that's so critical, because I know for me, when I got diagnosed, I didn't want to say anything because I had 17 years of service and I was trying to go for 20 plus. And I think when I deployed to Afghanistan, I told my boss, and first of all, people in the military shouldn't be deploying with lupus, but being that type A, and I had been in for 17 years, and I had many soldiers and peers deploy. It was my time to go. And I had told my boss, and so she knew. And I think she gave me little mini accommodations, because we worked directly for our two-star general and 2 1-stars, and she would look at me, and we did public affairs, so PR work. And she would just be like, Tony, go take a nap. And so she let me scoot off in the middle of the day to go back to my hooch to take a nap. Who does that in combat, you know? But I think because my boss had somebody in her family that had autoimmune diseases, that, you know, she made that accommodation for me. So, Sharita, so have you been able to continue to work with your lupus diagnosis?
Yes, I have. And fortunately, I was working from home. So that was one of the reasons why I was able to do that, which was I was very fortunate, to be able to do that. But I know that a lot of patients are not fortunate to do that. And currently I'm in remission, which is great. So now I'm in transition into a new position, which is going to be very demanding. But like I said, I'm currently in remission, which, is great and I'm very thankful for. But if in the case where, my lupus happens to come back in the position that I'm in, I would be able to take the breaks or whatever, I need to do. I can set my own schedule. I can, do whatever it is that I need to do. So I'm very fortunate for that.
No, that is definitely a blessing. And, you know, definitely take care of yourself during that transition, because as we all know, you know, as type A's, we want to keep pushing through and do the best we can. So, Karen, what about you? Have you been able to work through with your lupus?
Well, I was also very fortunate that I was able to work part-time after my diagnosis as the program coordinator for Lantern. So my lupus was front and center in my role. And I was very lucky to have a supportive work environment and have that flexibility.
No, that's great. Now, Kevin, I have a question for you. You know, have you experienced anything as a man with lupus that you would like to share?
Hmm. Okay, good question. So, yes, I think that as guys, we're kind of socially um, molded to kind of take things on and shrug it off and shake it off and just keep it moving, right? Like, so um, in the workplace, having to having to still show up to the level and degree that is expected of the position. I mean, this is the same for women as well, but I think for guys, there's maybe less empathy from coworkers, bosses, things of that nature. And I don't know for sure, but it feels that way sometimes. That there's just a lesser degree of empathy for whatever it is that you happen to be dealing with. So I know that that has been a struggle sometimes. And then my own ego having to set that aside to say, hey, I just cannot hack it. I need to go take a nap in my car for like an hour. I'll see you in a minute. Is hard to do, but absolutely necessary. So I can say that that has been something that I've dealt with as a father and a husband. There's level of wanting to be able to provide for your family, to protect your family, to step in and do the hard thing, whatever that thing is, pick up this heavy thing. I told Wendy some years back, open the pickle jar. Like, these are things that just kind of fall in your lap. And so I I know that it's been a struggle sometimes in those instances when I'm not able to fulfill that role. It's difficult emotionally, it's difficult in terms of relationship. And for those of us that have lupus, all of us, there definitely is a time of having to recalibrate what is in the realm of your ability to do and recalibrate that for yourself and your own emotional position on the issue, coupled with changing the bar that's been set with the people that depend on you so that they're clear on what you can and can't do and can get comfortable with your ability to perform those things.
No, thank you for that. Because I know a lot of times, you know, we just have to be able to say, we need to take a minute, And I know I'm thankful that I have somebody in my life who, both Michael and my mom, they'll look at me like, Tony, you can't do anymore. You're hitting that wall. You need to go sit down. Even though I want to keep doing it, you just have to know when to tap out per se, and be okay with that. And I think that's is critical with a lot of lupus patients, because we don't want to tap out. Now, I know we've all had various and different journeys throughout this time, but I know for me, like I said, I Googled lupus, and I was going to all the wrong places. I was going to the blogs and to the .coms, and that's where I was being told that I was going to die and take this crazy potion. And it wasn't until probably like maybe after I got nephritis that I got serious about it, and I started, going to respectable sites like .orgs and .edus, and that's how I ended up getting to the Lupus Foundation. But what resources have you found that's been helpful for you? I mean, Karen, I know that you've started your own nonprofit to help with people like yourself that was young and didn't see, other young people with lupus. But what have been some of the LFA resources that's been helpful for you throughout your journey?
Well, like you said, LFA now provides such an array, a plethora of podcasts, articles, educational webinars like this one, so I feel like LFA provides a lot of robust kind of and up-to-date resources for lupus patients. Also, I feel like LFA provides, it looks at lupus care in kind of a 360 comprehensive way, and addresses not just the medical aspects of lupus, but also the social, emotional, and lifestyle aspects that we need to pay attention to in order to live smarter and healthier. So I feel like LFA resources are extremely helpful.
Thank you, Karen. So, Yoli, what about you?
Yeah, I think in terms of the different resources, I think that I have found that becoming part of the advocacy committee and doing all those activities has been really a great way to channel my just my energy towards trying to get better and to inform others on how they keep their health. I think for me, we talked about the support groups earlier, and I think that for me, it was also tough to go to those. I didn't feel I was the type of person to go to those groups, to open up. It was hard for me, but I think there's something for everybody. There are resources, and LFA is a wonderful way to find those, whatever it may be. And we know that the lupus, was a patient, you have different needs at different points in your illness. And so I think that, it's a fantastic way to find what you need in that very moment.
No, yes, most definitely, most definitely. I know for me, I like to read and educate myself on my disease. And so being able to get the emails, another shameless plug, if you have not signed up, go to the website, and at the very bottom, you can sign up to get the emails. They do not bombard you with a whole 105 billion emails a day, but they do provide some great information. I just love reading about new things, like the new research and what's coming out and the different drugs that are in the pipeline, because it really brings a lot of empowerment to me. So if you have not signed up to receive the lupus emails, definitely go to lupus.org and go down to the bottom and sign up for the emails. So I have a couple other questions. Now, I know that, Karen, you said that you've experienced hair loss. And I know that you mentioned that you use different hair ornaments and eventually you cut your hair short. But has anybody else had any hair loss, like Yoli or Shrita or even Kevin? So Yoli, I see you shaking your head. So what did you do? What was like your experience with it? Because you have nice long hair.
Yeah, so I've always had I have a lot of hair. I've always had very thick, healthy hair, always been complimented for my hair. And so for me, it was extra shocking to see that I was brushing and, had just chunks and pieces of hair coming off. I think for me, it helped also sort of cutting my hair and just feeling like it was just a clean slate for me to just sort of take control of that. I think the medication, as we have all learned, right, when we take medication, it helps in areas and then it hurts you in other areas, right? The side effects. So inflammation is causing your hair to fall out, but then you're taking this medication that also causes you to lose your hair. So I think for me, it was cutting my hair and sort of feeling in some way psychologically empowered that I was taking control of this and choosing how I wanted to look. So yeah, it was very hard, especially, as a woman, that hair element is super important to all of us.
No, I totally understand that. I know when I started doing Cytoxin, my hair definitely changed, and I had to get used to it. I ended up going to a short afro at the time, and like you said, you have to just embrace it, and it's hard to be able to embrace the changes in your body. But I think as time goes on, you get to a point like I said, I've been living with it almost 17 years, and um, and I'm 51, and I'm just realizing, all these bumps, bruises, the scars from these diseases, everything else, all the surgeries, it's just part of me, and I just have to love every bit of it. And lupus is, I will say it doesn't define me, but we have to coexist together. So, and Kevin, I know you said that you had some hair loss. For women, for us, it's critical. For a guy, you just shave it all off. But what was your experience?
So I did have to shave it all off a couple times. My hair loss is so random in the most random, uncover-upable spots, you know, and so just gotta have to suck it up. Yeah, it is what it is. I don't have the perfect head shape, so doing the bald head is still embarrassing.
No, I totally understand. Now, I know with lupus, a lot of us have multiple other autoimmune diseases. I always say, you have kissing cousins, the other autoimmune diseases. And I remember when I got diagnosed, somebody said, if you could get to the first 5 years and you only have SLE, you should be good. But if you get other things within that first 5 years, it opens up so much. And I know for myself, I got diagnosed in '07, then I got nephritis in '08, then '09, I got diagnosed with fibromyalgia. 2010, I had the neuropsychiatric lupus and psychosis, so it just kind of started going down a path. But I want to ask the panelists, have you had other autoimmune conditions? I know, Karen, you said that you also have hypothyroidism, but how are you managing that with lupus?
Well, I've had I was treated for Graves' disease when I was 9 years old. So that's so I take Synthroid every day, and that's just sort of my regimen, taking a dose of uh, thyroid hormone since I was very young. So that hasn't changed. I just also periodically see my endocrinologist to check up and see if I need to adjust the dosage. But otherwise, that's been fairly stable. It's more managing the lupus, or around the hypothyroidism, and then the layer of, well, is it my thyroid, or is it my lupus, or is it my, like which one I have to kind of pay more attention to.
Does anybody else have other autoimmune conditions? So Kevin, you just have lupus. You're the lucky guy with just lupus. And then Sharita, you have the nephritis, but you're in remission. But what about you, Yoli?
No, I didn't have
Oh,
lupus nephritis, but what I did have discoid lupus. And I also experienced hair loss as well. Actually, I lost about half of my hair. And that's where the discoid lupus started, because I started having lesions on my hair,
Okay.
on my head. And they broke out in boils and sores. To the point that if like sunlight even touched any part of my skin, that it just broke out into like these really bad boils. And then when I try to cover it with like those silk scarves and stuff, just to keep it from like being exposed, or like the wind, like sometimes like when the wind like touches your like skin. And then I remember, because my family, they wanted to go to like the store, like Home Goods or something like that, and I didn't want people to see it. So then I put like a silk scarf on it, and then I put like a hat over top of it. And then when we got home, like I took the hat off, and then I was trying to take the silk scarf off of it, and the boils started like healing while the silk scarf was on it. So then I was like trying to take the silk scarf off, and then the silk scarf had started like meshing with the boils. So it was like this sound,
Oh,
and it hurt so bad. Like, because it was like the scabbing and the like pus and the sound. And I remember I was just crying, and I was like, ugh, and like the little like runoff from the, I know it sounds super gross, but it's like, ugh, but like that's like how bad like it was. Like, and I have pictures because I used to have to like show my doctor, but like from like the top of my ear here all the way across like the top of my hair back here, there was like just no hair, like no hair at all. And I didn't have the guts to like cut or like shave my hair either. Like I just kept it, like on me. So, but yeah, like it came back. But I did have seizures. I did get diagnosed with seizure disorder, which I did not know I had seizures. So yeah, like I said, the discoid lupus. But I do want to jump back because we were talking about like all the resources with LFA. So thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to talk about that. Again, shout out to my tri-state teleconference, telechat, because that's how I found out about lupus, and that was the greatest resource that I had for LFA, because I didn't know anything about lupus or what it was or what it did. And that was literally the first resource that I had getting in contact with lupus. And I literally was on that teleconference for months before I even said anything. And I even used an alias. This is like the big running joke, but like seeing how far the Lupus Foundation has come, even when you go on the website, I mean, we have so many resources now on there. We do Lupus and You, we have our support groups, we have even apps now. We're on Instagram, several chapters have different like Instagram accounts now. We're on Facebook, we have all these different things. Like, it's just amazing seeing how far we've come. Even with San Diego didn't have a support group, and then I started a support group in San Diego. I'm just really grateful to see just how far we've come just as a foundation, to see that we have all these resources when, there weren't a lot of resources, even when there were walks, there weren't really walks down here. And now we have a walk down here in San Diego. So it's just really like, it fills my heart to see like that there's such a presence with the foundation. And I remember Karen was talking about like how, we went up there. Like I remember meeting Karen for the first time, and we were like, oh my gosh, like what, like what's all this about? Like, because that was the first time like, meeting Wendy and stuff like that. But like I'm just really proud of, everything that the foundation is doing. But yeah, that's my TED Talk. Thank you for coming.
No, I know I know how you feel, because when I retired in 2011, I went to my first advocacy summit, and I remember then President and CEO Sandra Raymond was speaking about how the Department of Defense was funding high risk, high payoff research for the lupus research program. And I had just got medically retired because of lupus. I remember I went up to her afterwards, and I was like, I introduced myself. I'm like, I'll do whatever I can. If you want me to go to Congress, I'll put my uniform on. I go, but lupus has taken, my career from me. And I remember during that summit, they announced the Balesta. And I was just like, wow. And unfortunately at that time, because I had kidney and brain involvement, I couldn't take that drug. And but to fast forward, how we have, we got 3 drugs. We have so many more in the pipeline. They're in the final phases. So I mean, this is the time to get lupus, I guess you could say. because there's so many opportunities out there, so many resources available. Um, we have some great health educators. So if you have questions and you don't know where to turn, go to lupus.org/health educators, and they can answer your questions. I know I had reached out to Letty one time because I had a support group member that had some questions and I couldn't excuse me, I couldn't answer them as a facilitator, but I reached out to her, and the member reached back to me and said it was such a great experience, how she got so much information. So there's resources everywhere with the foundation. And like I said, we're in a great place right now. So definitely make sure you're on the email list. Make sure you check out lupus.org/support to find out all the support groups in the area. And like I said, you don't have to go to support groups in your state. They're so vast. Make sure you tell a friend, bring a family member, because having others understand you and what you're going through makes a difference. I just remember my brother didn't understand, and he used to take FMLA for me, but wouldn't come with me to appointments. And so I made him go with me to infusion, and he sat there for 6 hours, and we talked, and he got a better understanding. So sometimes it's about just educating. So what I want to do at this time, I want to go around to each panelist and ask them, because we've all had very unique journeys with our lupus, what did you wish you had known when you got newly diagnosed that you would share with others today, or to your now lupus self? I'll go ahead and go to Kevin first.
Okay. What I wish I would have known when I first got diagnosed, and I think this is probably the same for a lot of people, that initial blow of, oh my gosh, I have lupus. What the heck is this? How am I supposed to cope with this? How is this going to affect my life? I wish I would have known at the beginning that, for starters, there are a ton of resources out there that are going to help me get through this process. I wish I would have known that despite whatever levels of lupus may come my way, or that people deal with, that there are ways to cope and to get past this and to still have a life that is normal to some degree once I get my head around what it is to live with this. And just wish I would have known that that while I may have to recalibrate who and how I am to function alongside this disease, that it's possible and it's going to be okay. And ultimately, there's going to be some light at the end of this tunnel. Oh, hey, Tony, you're still on mute.
Thank you so much, Kevin. All right, so I'll go to Yoli. What would you wish you'd known?
That the lupus journey is not a straight line. It's full of peaks and valleys, and that you have to be patient with yourself. Also that, minding what you put in your mind is as important as what you are putting in your body in terms of medication, food, all of that. But starting with the mind, you need to be very, very, very strong. So working on that from the beginning is something to be very mindful of. It's important.
No, thank you. That is so true. I know. I think if I didn't get a mental health provider after my deployment, it would definitely make this journey a lot different. Because I know mental health has really impacted me with my lupus. I did have 4 suicide attempts in the past because of lupus, and I always say, you have to have that provider in your corner to help you go through, like Yoli said, the peaks and valleys, because there's going to be times where everything's going great and you're like Sharita and you're in remission, and then all of a sudden that other shoe drops, and you need somebody to help you navigate through it. And so, yes, most definitely. Karen, what about you?
Hey, I think I have three kind of pearls, kind of to leave everyone with. I think what I wish I had known when I was diagnosed was one, that it's okay to let go, that you don't need to be in control all the time to know all the answers, because, living with lupus means you live with uncertainty. You just don't know. And two, that changes are temporary. Your hair is going to grow back. Your steroid dose is going to go down. So be patient and trust that your body is resilient. And the third is, you don't have to give up on your dreams. Maybe they won't be exactly the ones you envisioned. See, I wanted to be a doctor, to help people, but I ended up going to public health school. And ultimately that accomplishes the same goal, right? Improving people's health and well-being. So you can live a full and productive life. So that's what I would leave with.
Thank you. Well, then I'll go ahead and go to Sarita. So for you, what pearls would you leave with the group?
Sure. And thank you, Tony, for mentioning that, because I can definitely relate. The three things that I would tell myself is don't lie, don't cry, and don't hide. I hid my diagnosis for a very long time, and that's from a cultural perspective. I think I was talking about my aunt and how she had cancer. She had that diagnosis from us, and she didn't tell us. So when we found out that she had cancer, it was literally like a month and a half before she passed. I'm South American and West Indian, and it is very taboo to like be sick or talk about being sick. Um, so when I found out that she was sick, it like it broke my heart. And I think that's probably why, like we were saying, the stress of lupus and stuff like that. I think that's why lupus like came for me the way that it did. But then when I found out that I had lupus, um, I didn't tell anybody for a very, very long time. Even though my parents found out because I was in the hospital, we didn't talk about it. Like we kind of still don't talk about it. But then, like I said, I kept my diagnosis away from people for about maybe like 4 years, just didn't talk about it. So I would tell myself, just stop hiding, just forget about it, just let it out. Um, Crying, I cried a lot because I felt like I was at the peak of my life. I was 29 or 30, and everybody knew me as this fun person. And then all of a sudden I wasn't. And my friends stopped hanging out with me, and I wasn't going out and partying and doing all this stuff. And that made me the person that you talked about, Tony. And, I had those same attempts. I had already been struggling with clinical depression since God knows when, for how many decades. And then you added that, and it just like, so I would tell myself not to try as best as I could not to go down that route, because knowing now, how it ends up, like it obviously it ends up a lot better. And then don't lie to myself. I lied to myself for a long time. I don't have lupus. This is fake. This isn't real. This is gonna go away. Everything is gonna be fine. And just stop. Just tell yourself the truth and just deal with it and move on with it and get over it. Like the quicker I admit that I have this, the faster that, I can start treatment and taking my medications and, just facing it head on, because I ran away from it for a long time. So don't lie, don't cry, don't hide. That's what I would tell myself.
No, I love that, Sharita. I love that because I was in denial for the first 2 years. I didn't tell anybody. I think my ex-husband knew, my parents, and my best friend. Outside that, no one else knew. And now I'm living my best life with lupus, and I shout it from the rooftops. I let people know what it is. I educate about it. I talk about it just because people don't know And, I do it sometimes jokingly, and we all know this disease sucks. It sucks at times. I hate being in hospitals. I hate having to sit in ERs. Excuse me. But it's just one of those things. And, as time goes on, it does get better. And what I would always say is enjoy the micro wins, celebrate those. Because pre lupus, we might have been able to go to the mall or work a 40, 60-hour work week. And now we could barely get out of bed. But we got to celebrate that we got out of bed, we brushed our teeth, and we washed our face. Because in a couple days, we're back to doing our thing. And sometimes the journey, it could be long. It could be real long. And sometimes it's just, it could be like a snap of the fingers that you're in the hospital, you're being pumped with steroids, you're being told you got to start new meds. You put on the weight from the steroids, your face is going to be moon shaped. You start losing your hair, you can't move, you have to take time off from work. Your family and friends don't understand. But know that there is life with lupus, and that we can overcome, and it might take longer, but just know that it's a journey, and that it's just one paragraph in your chapter of life. That's why I look at it. Every time I have an issue, like last year, I had a lot of skin issues, and it was just like, why me? But then once I changed that mindset and said, okay, it's just one little chapter, and fast forward, now I see my dermatologist, and it's like Sarita was saying, look at the pictures from the last visit, and every visit, it's like, okay, I see progress. It might be slow, but I see progress. Now, I know that we all deal with lupus differently. And I know some of our viewers out there are wondering, like, how do we deal with it? In what ways what can they use to help them? I know, like for me, yoga and meditation has been phenomenal. It's really helped with my stress. But Karen, what do you do to help manage with your lifestyle?
Well, I think it's lifestyle choices, right? I think prioritizing my my exercise time, and really making an effort to at least, sweat once a day, do something active, move my body. Exercise has helped my health mentally and physically. So I really put that front and center. And as mentioned before, nutrition, eating healthy, making good diet choices, and sleep, making sure I get plenty of sleep to help with the fatigue. It's lifestyle choices, I think, that have really helped me really stay in remission for as long as I have. So I've been very fortunate that way.
So, Karen, I know that you've had lupus nephritis, and so you're in remission from that right
Yes.
now?
Like I said, I was treated very aggressively in the beginning, so it stopped the inflammation and the permanent damage. And I have not had a serious nephritis incident since then. So,
And then, so how long ago was that you had your initial nephritis attack?
it was 25 years ago when I landed in the hospital.
Okay. And so, and then when would you say that you actually went into remission?
Well, the Cytoxin treatments protocol is about a year, and then I went CellCept for another maybe 6 months, and so yeah, to get it under control, and then you're still on steroids after that. So, maybe 2 years, 2 to 3 years.
Okay. And then are you, because I know I have nephritis too. And so I had a scare a couple months ago, well, about 18 months ago. And so we went in and did a kidney biopsy, and everything turned out to be fine. But I'm one of those girls that I do definitely have my nice orange 24-hour urine sample that I do. And I know for me, my nephrologist is like, Tony, we're at a point that, we don't have to do them. But I know for my own comfort level, I do one like 3 times a year. Actually, I'm about to drop one off tomorrow. But, I mean, we're keeping it real, right? It's real talk here. But Karen, with your nephritis being in remission, what type of testing do you currently do? Is it just a regular UA? Are you doing 24-hour urine samples now?
No, I don't have to do 24-hour urine tests regularly. On occasion, if there's something that the doctor sees, then he'll order one, but I haven't done one in the past couple years, like a couple years at least.
Okay, thank you. Now, Yoli, you said that you recently got diagnosed with nephritis. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was in 2021, and I thankfully also got it under control and in remission after 2 years of CellCept and also prednisone, the word none of us have mentioned here.
Oh, yes.
The elephant
Now,
in the room. Mhm.
yes. Now, now that you've been in remission, what does your testing look like for you?
Every 3 months, my nephrologist tests me for protein in the urine and different things that are indicators of inflammation every 3 months.
Okay, thank you. And then Kevin, you just have lupus. You don't have nephritis.
I do actually. So I do have kidney
Oh,
involvement as well. So right now, as things have gotten a little bit better, I get with the nephrologist every 2 to 3 months. Urine tests, things of that nature, blood work, to keep track of what's going on.
okay. And I know, Sharita, you don't have nephritis. Yours primarily was discoid and seizures.
Yeah, so I have lupus SLE. The only thing going on with my kidneys is that ever since I've been diagnosed with lupus, I do have protein, but we just can't understand like why protein keeps showing up. Like every time that they've checked it, there's always been protein. There's never been a time when they've checked it and there hasn't been protein. And then like Karen was saying, she did like the cytotoxin route, which is like the methotrexate and all that stuff. And then I did the same thing, and then they tried to put me on CellCept, but for some reason CellCept made me like super crazy. Like I couldn't do it for like more than like 2 weeks, and then like I just started like losing it, like pulling my hair out, having like all kinds of like psychotic episodes. So then they took me off of that, and we did the prednisone, and obviously I was on Plaquenil, and then they had me on something else, and then they took me off of that, and then they just kept me on Plaquenil. And then recently, actually within the last November, they took me off of Plaquenil because I had prolonged QT syndrome. I had to go to the hospital in November. Oh no, October. October. I was in the hospital October because I was having issues with my heart, and I didn't know what was going on. I wound up falling, and I felt like a tight squeeze, and I had to go to the hospital. And when I was there, they wound up seeing that I had prolonged QT syndrome, and that I was low on magnesium, and I was having electrical issues. So after that, they took me off of Plaquenil, and I haven't been back on it since. But I'm doing okay. So, for the most part, they think that I'm in remission, which is great. So
Thank you. I want to thank all the panelists for being here today and sharing your stories and being real about our lupus. It is a journey. There is life with lupus. It's going to wax and wane. And we're just glad that we had the opportunity to speak to you all tonight. And we hope that you got something from this discussion. And I will turn it back over to Wendy.
Wow. I'm so proud of all of you. First of all, your vulnerability, your openness. I'm sure someone in here was helped tonight, if not everyone that's been online. Thank you all for your questions. Our team has been working and tirelessly, I can't say the word today. They've been working a lot, answering your questions, and I really appreciate that. You can get with them one-on-one if you have more, But I just want to share before you log off how you can stay in touch with us. If you need anything, you can call us old school on the phone number. We have one. You can email us at info@lupus.org. Check out the website Tony's been mentioning, lupus.org. There's tons of information there, including all of the programs and resources that were mentioned. We're on social media as well. And here are our handles. It's Lupus Foundation of America for Facebook. And then for Instagram and what used to be Twitter, X, we are at lupus.org. So that's how you can stay in touch and continue the conversations and find out more.